My name is Ivan. I do two things. So at Esportian, we guide students that are players, coaches, or content creators that are usually based in Europe and Latin America into US and Canadian schools so they can keep competing and working on campus while they are studying the degree that they want. So we guide them in the pre-university process in all the paperwork and exam prep, and then we negotiate scholarships for them because our mission basically is like to make education accessible for gamers. Although education is quite pricey in the US and Canada, but they also have like massive scholarships. So for some students, it's even, makes more sense to study abroad sometimes, So that's what we focus. And then I'm also a university teacher in EU Business School, which they have a campus in Barcelona. And that's where I teach in Barcelona, Spain. And this is where I'm based in Barcelona,
Okay,
Spain.
cool. And so sort of just to start, like what is sort of the landscape in Barcelona or in just around where you are in general? What is the space like? Like, was it sort of abundant like when you started? Is this sort of still like growing like a new thing? Like, what is it like around there?
So currently there's a big correction. When I started, let's say that when I started, I think it was like a bit like pre-COVID, no, post-COVID, sorry. And this influx of VC and Capital and many other groups, and there were a bunch of like movie theaters that were transformed into like esports arenas and esport like gaming lounges, okay, for that people could rent. And also there's a bunch of spaces and a bunch of teams and a bunch of platforms and orgs. And well, the money that was put in and the revenue generated, something was not adding up,
Yeah.
So yeah. Then right now the scene is, as I mentioned, in a correction, meaning that there's not enough as much money as there was before. Okay. So in terms of opportunity, especially in esports and education, that's where I'm focused on, is not great. So that's why countries like US, Canada, okay, and UK is going hard as well, okay, are very interesting places for Europeans and Latin Americans to study in.
And so, because like from what I understand here, even though the space is growing, like you said, esports, I guess education is still on the rise. It's still kind of growing, still kind of new. What does that sort of entail as far as like for the students? Because obviously you say you help them get scholarships and different things like that. What are all the different things that you help them do in order to sort of pursue all of that?
Yeah, so let's divide this. So the profile of students that we get is usually students that are like in their last 2 years of what is your high school, right?
Okay.
And then we prepare them for the exams, okay, do all the paperwork because the admissions deadlines for some university is sooner than others. And also the recruitment cycle, okay, depending on universities, can start a year and a half in advance, or some universities like 4 months. But the profile students are that. Then there's the students that are in university that want to transfer, or students that want to do a master's degree abroad, okay? And they've also been coaching or playing at a competitive level. And, a master's can be a good fit. Then there's the students, depending on the game, but like Rocket League, for example, okay? 18, 19-year-olds that didn't finish high school, wants to go pro at 16 and didn't finish school, right? So, and they're 19 and they're like, what am I doing with my life? Those students, we guide them into obtaining the GED, okay? So they can get into university. So those are the three profile students. And then what we help them do is, well, as I mentioned, exam prep, GED, a TOEFL, the SAT, or Duolingo. Then we help them find universities. We guide them in based on their yearly budget, okay, their academics, their competitive profile, okay. We find them universities that have their university degree and that have their video game at the level of competition they want, okay, and that fits the budget. In all the calls with the esports directors that they have, we're also there. We teach them how to sell themselves to maximize the esports scholarship. We tell them what questions are key to ask, both academically, esport program wise, okay, RO1, again, internship opportunities. We help them see the 360, not just like, oh, it has a cool esport program. I want to go there. No, it's like more than 360, okay? Because like
So
at
it's
the end of
almost
the day,
like
you're a student and then an athlete, right?
yeah, I see that like we would call that like college prep.
Yeah,
And then sort of, so you're adding basically an esports element to college prep, which is very interesting because that is sort of, I'm not sure I've heard that before or put it in that sort of way, because more and more kids are going to want to get into esports and want to, play and all of that different stuff, but they don't necessarily know the way to be able to get there. And now that more and more schools are starting to offer these programs and stuff, and there is going to be more opportunity. Obviously you still got to be able to get into the school and still be able to
of
go to
course.
school and stuff, but also you have to be able to, I guess, play the game that you want to play and all that stuff. So how do you sort
Mhm.
of prepare that aspect? Like, how do you go about like choosing, because everybody's going to be at different skill levels and stuff like that, so like how do you go about like choosing profiles and choosing different students to work with?
Yeah. So to answer the first of all that you mentioned, we are like a college prep mixed with esports.
Hmm.
Yes, and also why families decide to work with us is because of the amount of scholarship we can negotiate with them. Because if the student goes by themselves, or the parent goes to talk to esports director, they don't know how much budget they have, they don't know how to speak to them, they don't know how to sell themselves, and the
Right.
esports director will say, "I'll give you this scholarship, I'll give you
Right.
this scholarship," and that's it, right? But they don't know, how to like go to the
Yeah.
next tier.
Yeah, like
And
what
plus, we also
brands and,
yeah.
deals and all that different stuff that they could even
And
talk
we
about.
also
Yeah.
have partnerships with the universities. So, our students get discounts as well. So that's our added value. And also and what you mentioned, esports scholarships. So I would say like top 10 programs, or I think now less, do offer those full tuition scholarships, right? For
Hmm.
esports.
Yeah.
But if we generalize, most of the scholarships, the highest scholarships come from academic scholarships.
Yeah.
So I would say to a student, okay, if you're not like competitive, I would say like just focus on your academics, get the
Mhm.
highest GPA, do as much extracurricular activities, do like many different things, and that's going to add a lot of value to your application. And trust me, you'll have a way higher scholarship than if just focus on esports and don't focus on school.
Mhm.
Of course, there's those outliers, but on a general basis, and plus, if you want to go to university, like no matter how good you are, if the GPA of the test scores are not there, you're
Right.
not going to get in. Okay. So,
Yeah. Right.
so yeah.
Yeah.
And how we choose a profile, okay, especially for international students, because like US domestic, we work with some domestic students. They have like the fast five if they apply for it, and many other stuff that they don't depend on the parents to go to college.
Mhm.
They may get into massive debt. Okay, that we advise them in that, like
Yeah.
the like but like
Yeah.
for international students, which is our larger population. Okay, the vetting process is
Mhm.
we make them fill out a form of like 3 to 5 minutes of like academic profile, budget, esports preferences, what they want exactly, size of uni, location in the US or Canada, like
Gotcha.
super you know, personalized. And if they're eligible, if we can work with them, we have like the first consultation and a second consultation with the student and the family. Okay.
Gotcha.
So we guarantee university offers by contract. Okay. So we have a vetting process of like a long form, and 2 meetings. Okay. So it's more making sure that they're eligible, okay, to work with us, rather than like, oh, you want to go to US Canada to study? Yeah, go,
Right. Yeah.
because like in
And I would imagine that way, the people that are reaching out to you, they would already sort of know the deal anyway, so they would kind of know, hey, I don't like, if it's a student and they only have a 1.0 GPA, they would know that they're probably not going to be a good fit for that right off the bat, type thing.
as a US student, yes, but as an international student, like they don't even know, like they only know the Ivy League universities, and they don't
Yeah.
even know most of the states,
Yeah.
or even it can't even name like 5 universities. Like
Yeah.
their knowledge is very limited, but
Hmm.
they want to go to US to study. So like we have to guide them like very
Yeah.
thoroughly, and also like meet them, be in the same frequency
Yeah.
regarding expectations.
Yeah, so it's like you're
Okay.
not getting into Harvard. You don't have Harvard grades, but you might be able to get into here and here based on that,
Even if you
that
have
sort of thing.
Harvard grades, I cannot guarantee that you're gonna get into Harvard.
That's very true. So, what's compelled you to start this? How did you say this is the route to go? This is interesting idea, but it is sort of a newer idea. So, how did you craft this?
So myself, I went to study back in 2013. I graduated in 2013 for my bachelor's degree in the US. I went with a tennis scholarship. So I did my 4 years, and then I went back home, worked for an agency for many years, and that agency worked with Spanish student athletes that wanted to go to the US and Canada. So I did that. I did like basically every department in the agency. 5 years ago, I thought it was time to go my own way, to start my own thing. So I decided to get into the collegiate esports scene where it was starting to get a bit more traction.
Yeah.
Still too early, but like better traction. And basically that's how I basically transferred my skills that I had acquired in the sports and education into the esports and education when it was like, I don't know, like just
That's small now, so I mean, I can only imagine when you were starting it is even
like
smaller. So
imagine on LinkedIn, I have the esports in education title for the newsletter. So imagine how early I was there.
yeah, that's not bad though. Hey, you get to be first to it. So, what was your background? Were you a gamer? Like, were you into
Yeah.
esports and things like that? What sort of games were you playing, and what were you sort of interested in?
Like COD, what is now EAFC, but
Yeah,
back then FIFA. And then like a bunch of strategy games when I was way younger, but Need for Speed,
yeah,
like anything, like just anything. But like EAFC, like is what I was the best at, and
yeah,
I competed. But like gaming for me was just when I was, because I went with the tennis scholarship 2 years, so I focused on tennis
yeah,
in my school years. Gaming or esports with, on a competitive, it was more like when I was recovering from training
yeah,
or
yep.
after competition, I would game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like if they told me, like you can get the same scholarships in tennis than in EAFC, okay, back then I would have really had a time like to decide
yeah,
what route to go. But like it was very clear when I was 16, right? Like, an agent that did what I was doing when I was 16 said, hey, I saw you love tennis. You go to, a British school, back then. And I think you can, do the exam prep to go to the US, and you love tennis.
mm-hmm.
I can get you like a scholarship.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that, sort of dynamic because I played football in college, so I was focused mostly on that. But like you said, that when I wasn't playing football, I was either gaming football or we was doing something football. It was always something, but like it was always back to the gaming. And so, but back then there were no scholarships or nothing like that for esports. Like there weren't
No.
even programs or nothing like that I knew of. Because if I knew of them, I would have been doing the same thing. I probably would have been trying to get into it, and figure out how to do it professionally. Because like I'm into, what was CDL and stuff like that. And Call of Duty has kind of changed for me over the last couple of years, but I was actually playing EA FC last night. So that's one of the games that I play a lot too. What is the next step for like that business, like your business model? Like, does it just continue to be, help the kids prep and then sort of get into school? Like, what is the end goal? Because obviously this is sort of kind of going to grow. The space is going to grow. I would imagine that eventually colleges are going to start to get more on board because I think colleges at this point are still sort of green to the idea of esports and things like that. Like, even though there are a lot more opportunities, it's not as many opportunities as you would still think. You know what I mean? Like, there's like thousands and thousands of colleges all over the world, and we are only thinking of like a handful of maybe the big colleges or the Ivy League schools or something like that. And so, like, what is sort of the end goal for you as far as like pushing this, grow it into like this big sort of thing? Like, do you kind of want to keep it smaller to where you're just kind of helping, kind of a handful of kids get in? Like, what's the end goal for you?
Yeah. So it's kind of small. Like we're in
Mm-hmm.
a niche of a niche. So
Mm-hmm.
like it was so small that we worked with students from 14 different countries, right? To
Mm-hmm.
some to US and Canada. And it's because, well, if they want to do this opportunity, like it's us and a few like random single agents that do this as a side hustle, not like full time like us. So
Mm-hmm.
our objective, okay, is to get in more countries. And now we're also have partnered and are partnering with more federations in European countries to build a more solid pipeline for grassroots tournaments and help them, see this opportunity so they go study abroad. So build a more solid pipelines in European countries. And the next step would be like going into the education sector more and more, right? But like opportunities, I mean, if you want to do something right, it's do just one thing, and focus on the service, focus on making it as simple as possible. And the better, it's just so many opportunities in this life, but like if you don't choose one, you're just gonna dance around life.
Yeah. What is the temperature of the lawmakers and like the different federations and stuff? Like, what are they saying about these sort of things? Because obviously they are going to be the ones to like, if things are going to grow, they're going to have to invest in, different infrastructure, different things. So like, what are these different entities saying, about how this is growing and what it could be?
Well, there's countries that are a bit more behind this. Um, Nordic countries or the UK internationally, okay, I'm not talking about US and Canada, are the ones that the government is involved in funding. Esports is an extracurricular activity, like a traditional sport, right? So the parents view it as like, yeah, it's just another selection. They
School.
play
Yeah.
tennis and they play, a game after school, right? There's tournaments, there's, they teach them how to game, how to compete, how to behave, all that. Yeah. So good. But like in Spain, it's still like there's a long way to go. And in many countries in Europe, but in the Nordic countries in Europe and UK, I think it's where it's the most developed.
Obviously you being in Barcelona, obviously, FC would be a huge game anyway, just simply because the teams there. You say you are in a niche of a niche. So like, what would be like the next big thing as far as the space is concerned for you?
Well, access to more students. In this past 5 years, we've worked with gamers, but like most of our students are esport players and coaches that coach at a high level, right? That are like, now I think it's time to transcend in my career, not retire, but transcend and maybe, get a master's degrees or bachelor's degrees while still competing and using my talent as a tool to finance my studies is the best way to go, right? But like,
Yeah.
we still need to tap into, the gamers, the schools and stuff like, because in the US, yeah, there's already, a bunch of schools that have like esports programs. There's a bunch of leagues as well, governing bodies and stuff. It's way more advanced, but it's not like that.
How does that factor into like, cause the big talk as far as the schools and paying the athletes and stuff now, NIL deals and stuff like that. How does that sort of work itself into all of this? Because obviously, like you say, you're teaching them to sort of sell themselves. So obviously, that's like branding and using their name, image, and likeness and stuff like that. How does that sort of work itself out?
I don't know if it's going to change, but for now, international students can't have access to that because they can't monetize. They can monetize on campus, but they cannot work off campus. And NIL deals, if they go compete abroad with the university, yeah, they can win money, but like in the US, no. Okay. That is currently now. Hope it changes.
I mean, yeah, they're getting the opportunity to play and stuff
Yeah.
like that, but they're not able to capitalize as much as they would,
Because they're going in an F1 student visa. An F1
Mhm.
student visa, those are the requirements.
Yeah, that's wild. So they basically need to basically create a new visa or just reduce those
Nah,
restrictions.
but like, yeah, the government being like, okay, now international students can leverage
Yeah,
NIL deals. That's it.
yeah.
But
I mean,
I think there's,
that's interesting. I didn't know
there's a
that. I
process to it.
mean, what would you say to be able to change that? Like, what do you think is going to, change that sort of deal? Because that would be a big deal for, international students.
I mean, if coaches and players, international players protest, I mean, because like most of the international students that are student athletes, what do they play? Like soccer, what
Yeah.
football here, soccer
Mhm.
there, tennis, swimming. It's not like they don't, like, international students don't get like those massive or any NIL deals. Like
Yeah.
usually NIL deals, if we're talking on a generic sense, happen in basketball, American football, baseball. The rest of the sports, not that much, right?
Yeah.
So like international students, there are international students in D1 schools, basketball players, but guys are from the US, right?
Yeah, but I'm thinking it would be, for you guys, obviously, like you said, it would be soccer, and I'm a big soccer fan, so I mean, it's kind of weird. It's just kind of like I like both of them, but you would think that there would still be soccer is it's the biggest sport in the world. I mean, you would think that there would be something along those lines, and I'm guessing that would be kind of different, like say in Barcelona, because the major clubs, they have their feeder systems and stuff like that. So
It's completely different. Like
yeah, so it wouldn't even be.
like universities don't. They have university like soccer leagues, but like it's
Yeah.
very amateur. Like forget about the college system. With sports and education, that doesn't exist. So
Very interesting.
it's like in Spain or any European country is like you go pro or like Esports tennis, right? Me. I mean, if I was on the path of going pro, but I knew when I was 16, I'm like, I'm not gonna make it the top 100 in the world. And honestly, if I'm not gonna make it top 100 in the world, my living standards are not gonna be great. So like, I might as well go to the US, get a scholarship and education, and keep playing tennis there, right? There's some players that are like, I think I have a good chance of making it top 100 in the world. They do that for many years, 25. I'm not there. And my expenses surpass what I'm earning, because tennis is individual sport. I have to travel a lot. So now what are my options? Coaching tennis. I'm a tennis coach now.
Yeah.
And a tennis coach in the US doesn't make what a tennis coach in
Europe makes. I was just curious to say, what is that crossover? Because I want to see, you're definitely making more.
Nothing wrong with being a coach in the US.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I understand that completely. What is your pitch to people? Like, how are you getting more people to get interested in, doing this sort of thing and like looking your way? Because like you said, it is sort of still new. So especially if you say like the people aren't still as educated about like what the opportunities are and stuff like that, like what are you sort of telling them to be able to say, hey, your child can do this, this, and this, and this is the path we can take to sort of get there?
Well, if you have been trying to go pro and it's not working, might as well get a degree and continue to compete at a similar level in the US colleges scene, right? If you are a gamer and you're already thinking about starting abroad and you might not compete, but we can get you, in some programs where they can get you a few thousand scholarship plus some work study in the program, doing like social media, event management, or recruiting, whatever.
Yeah.
And that can add, to an extra 10K or 8, So it's about it, like depending on the profile of the student, we analyze it and like this is how much scholarship on average we can get you.
Cool.
For gamers or esports players, depending on their objectives, it changes.
Shoot, I mean, I'm not a student, but I mean, I want to live abroad. Do you want to help me get a scholarship? No, I'm just joking. That is pretty cool, though, that, you're able to sort of help foster all of that. If you want people to reach out to you, find you and all that stuff, the floor is yours.
Okay, go to esportian.com, have a look at our website. You're like, what are my chances? There's a few buttons in the website, to apply now. Fill out the form, we'll analyze it, and if you're eligible, we'll schedule a call. If not, we'll send an email under what conditions we could work with you. And we offer free consultations without commitment, okay? So you have all the information on the table to make the best decision. Although our services are paid, we have different packages depending on the service that you provide, but the consultations are free with no commitment.